Yeah, lunch. Yeah.
Okay.
It says I'm live. Okay. Oh, sorry. Hey, I'm live here. And what happened? What happened? So let me tell you about Einstein. Einstein, it's reported, that he didn't speak until he was 4 years old. So his parents and others thought at that time they'd use the term retarded. You're retarded in your movement forward. And so, what a name to be called. So Einstein, they had said, because he didn't speak, good to see you, Brett, that he was retarded. So, but he wasn't, obviously, a genius. But at 4 years old, he spoke for the first time. And it's reported that, and I read several sources, that he just said, soup's hot. And so his parents were just shocked. Here he is, he's talking. And I said, "You've been able to talk? And why haven't you talked till now?" And he said, "Because until now, everything was in order." What a stunning comment. So I haven't talked about some things because until now, everything was in order. And so this is such a golden, good to see you, Holden, uh, opportunity for us to understand just the greater than love that the Lord is opening up to us. David Cadell, I love you. There's great understanding that the Lord wants to bring us. Psalms 110, verse 11, I believe. I'll make sure that just really talks about what it takes to gain understanding. And so at times like this, David sought understanding, and he said in 2 Samuel, when he got it, he said, "What the hell you're getting, get understanding." Jacqueline, good to see you. It's a hope-filled journey, that's for sure. So I just want to be brief tonight, but this is the beginning of the Jesus movement with wisdom. And what has happened with what I was told by the Lord is wait till the 20th. And then he spoke, I want to bring John the Beloved forth. And so there's prophecies that are conditional and can be deferred. And I'm not there, hi Akua, but I believe that there's a way to come in before 10,000, 500,000, before a nation. And so I believe that there is, hi Maria, that there's a different level of authority that we're to come into, and it's based on love, that we only grow in understanding when we have love. In Philippians, it says that you abound in love, and then you abound in discernment. So outside of love, the greatest sin is to lessen the value of a human being and to allow ourselves to look at people on the left, right, and devalue them and box them in does not give us what God wants to give us above the heavens, their original design. And so there is an authority He wants to give us to come into our original design and to bring others into the original design. Ask the Lord how it's better, what's going to happen now. Do not look at the tables that appear empty. Turn around and see all these tables that are full. Understand in the election that there was the beloved John that he wanted to bring forth, and he wanted to bring us forth with this authority and love. It will win over bitterness. He's giving us the sweet stick, and it doesn't mean that we don't be afraid of people throwing tantrums. We don't be afraid of people inciting things. We do not get into the battle and fray. Intelligent people win arguments. Wise people know how to avoid the arguments. They come with the spirit of attunement. They attune to people in wisdom, and then they bring the Son of God and become all things to all men. They come with the authority of the Son of God. I have had everyday encounters with people that I would read about who they are and what they are in the social media, and you're immediately boxing in. We got this new term of somebody called a Karen or somebody called this and that. And what happened in the election was we had an opportunity, and it's not anybody did anything wrong, but it was a conditional reality in this way. It's like you could make it across the wilderness into the promised land in 11 days, but it takes many years until, if we don't walk into this new door of this authority that he's given us in love and in our original design. And we have to have a third love. The first love's sweet, second love's deep. Third love is the love that hopes all things. And it's a force that cannot be stopped. And we each have a sweet stick that we go in and stir the bitter waters. I had notes from people today that are going after prophetic people that said, Trump's going to win. I have said and had dreams the last few months that I was to wait till the 20th and that he wanted to bring forth John the Beloved. I believe that three things happen. I believe, one, that we exalted him. And so when you exalt somebody, that lifts their head up to a place where it gets cut off. We can never exalt a man and make it dependent on him. It was a whole people group that was to buy in to who God is and his ways. And I warned Mr. Trump before his first election. I was on a plane, there was a phone, and I said, you cannot create an us versus them atmosphere. They are human beings, and we got to win them with love and understanding and our ideas and our values. It takes a little longer, but your virtues stay intact, and you do it with the love. And if you push it down their throats, you're going to end up having temper tantrums. And so it's not that and then a whole group of people become militant versus becoming greater lovers, greater builders of bridges. There was a place to adore versus go to Mars Hill and get all of our information from the social media. We had to double our adoration of God. And when we do that, he first loves us, and he creates love in us for others because we see them according to the original design, no matter how they're behaving. And we become an authority that wherever we go, we have that third love that's a force of hope. And so what happened in the election is that we had created an us versus them mentality, and there was another way to achieve the same goal, where it's not right to not tell the truth, and it's not right to kill babies, it's not right to do these things. There is a place where we're not going to change a human being or others. This is required of us if we don't cry over them. Jesus wept over a city that was in a mess and the people were against him, but he weeps over them because he loves them and wants understanding, wants everybody to come to the salvation and the knowledge of the truth of who he is. And he wins so many people because of just the penetrating, consistent, seeing their original design. The woman, the adulterous woman, he writes in the sand, beautiful one, queen, tender one. So I need to just say to you, on the 20th, we are to ask again. And we don't be like the woman with Elijah, where he said, you're going to have a baby. And she said, don't do that to me, my hopes, because I was on the mountain of the Lord. In Exodus 26, Moses on the mountain. Now I come down the valley. Isaiah 56 says, I came to the place of prayer, the mountain of prayer, and I found joy and I found a vision. And then I came down, and it says, all the beasts of the field devoured it, came after me. And it says, then all became greedy for gain. That means they all turned on each other and just started fighting and saying, prophets and you and this, so I hate you. I don't believe you. You're cynical. They become so cynical and doubt addicts. And they become in a prison of doubt. And the enemy keeps them alive so they can spread their doubt. Let's not do these silly things. We're more mature than this. We have an opportunity to ask him, how is this better? Because he's going to spread an attunement party through a people and a second Jesus movement with wisdom. And wisdom is pure and peaceful and from above, and it conquers all. The wisdom love, the love that hopes all things. I want to give you a picture, two pictures quickly, and then I want to give you the opportunity to ask questions. And why was the prophet saying it's going to happen if you want to ask that question? Why was, what has really happened? There's some things I can't tell you, and it's not like I know everything in this, but, there's a man called Donald Trump. And there's a heart of a man, and there's a health of a man, and there's a man going at such a speed that maybe he has something in his body that needs to be discovered, that he needs taken out so that he lives and he prospers. Maybe there's also a visitation of the Lord that he wants to bring to him to tell him about who he is as John the Beloved, that had this authority that the church was splitting and people come out to where he'd been exiled, the Isle of Patmos, and he tells them, brethren, love one another. He heals the wound. He brings the comfort of God. And he says, brothers, our love is bigger than this. And he's able, by the grace of God, to mend the fracture, and for people that would hate each other, sit down at peace with one another. I'm going to tell you something that is true. The Trump administration will go forward. The ones that are there are plagiarists. I'm not going to say anything negative about anybody. They're wise in this way, that Trump in office would have been so opposed that as a person that the Trump administration couldn't go forward. That means the good decisions and the good ways. They are going to adopt many of his ways and his policies and procedures because they work and there's genius behind them. And there'll be some things that they do that are not good, but it will fall to the ground. And if you listen to the commentators, they'll emphasize those things, But I'm telling you, I'm promising you, those things won't stick. And we're going to get our mind and our heart back as a nation. And you have more authority and choice in this than we ever know or think. It needed to be where we didn't lift him up to where his head got cut off. And Bob Jones, I threw a birthday party for him. A couple of thousand people came. And I walk over, I said, how do you like your birthday party on the stage? We did this whole journey of his life. And he's sober and he says, this is not my birthday party. This is my funeral. He said, you've exalted me. And he said, I can handle the praise, but I can't handle the rejection. And there is a human being. He said, Bob Jones said, I'll get my head cut off. And he said, I'll commit spiritual suicide. So he ends up doing something dumb, but I was in charge of his discipline program, and it was not, way off the deep end stuff, but it was just a guy that just didn't care because he'd just gotten hurt so bad. And I just comfort him. I'd just be there 3 or 4 times a week for a few years and just be there to be with him and love him. And, but he would say horrible things and under the anointing about people and things because he was so hurt. So we need to understand that there's people that are hurt, there's people that are reactive, and it's time for them to sit on the park bench and let the Lord oil their feet and their hearts. It's time to right people and know you have authority and speak to them their original design and just impart love that hopes all things and bring a calm to this heightened attacks. And the media would like to keep it going. But we have authority in the Spirit. And so it's much better what's going to come forth. And I want to give you 2 pictures, and I'll do that quickly, and then let's ask questions tomorrow. So Alistair, I don't know what he's saying, but Chris, you say anything you want. Alistair, you got to be the merry man, the happy man. Roger, good to see you. Maria, I agree that there was demonic pressure, but there's angelic ones that are curious. They want to be asked and invited in. We are going to see new miracles, and I'm not just blowing smoke. I've just been visited enough times, and so I'm having a hard time understanding. I cried earlier for people's pains and just their disappointments, and they're saying this is reality, that we're going to live under all this darkness. No, we're going to roar a second time. That's always what the Lord requires. A first hope is based on circumstances. A second hope is based on something inside. It comes from the inside out. It's not based on circumstances. It says a good man in Proverbs 14:14 or woman is satisfied from within. You see a land where he is loved. You see nations that love him well. You see elderly that are treated with honor and respect. You see the youth where there's a human development garden from God. You see a prosperous land. What you see is the most important thing about you, seeing from his eyes, and you will have a different vision of the whole earth and not get stuck in this pettiness. There's a greater than love that hopes all things. So I'll give you this example quickly. I started a business and I felt promises. This is 30 years ago. Stepped out of ministry, and you're always in ministry, but just in the church. And I got claustrophobic, and I needed to meet the God of all of life. And, you go out into the mountains, it says, in Song of Solomon 2, and it says there lies foxes that try to spoil the vine. You get the challenges of negation. 96% of the businesses that start in the cleaning, janitorial, that's what I had, 120 janitors, fail. And so I'm into it, and it's growing, but you got to keep track of your numbers. And so I'm not, my profit margins weren't great. I did it all that well. And so we're, got a lot of work for not a great return. And in the midst of it, I'm able to do some importing and exporting. And I had done that in Zimbabwe where I lived there, that I was able to do some exporting and learn about it and get a good return. And so I meet the president of JCPenney's at that time, and he's doing this project with some other people. And I knew it very well what they were doing. They were taking scrap metal and being able iron primarily, and they're being able to sell it. There's a number of countries that can't get a hold of iron, and they need it for many purposes. The strength of it and building is awesome. So I start to invest and do it as little limited liability companies, and they last 90 days, and they flip the product, and you have invested and you get a return, and part of it goes to missions, and that was exciting for me. And so, but I have a dream that the leaders, 6 of them were tilted, and 1 of them was upright. And it was all right that they were tilted if they admitted it and dealt with it. Well, I go to Canada, and that's where they were at, and with Bob Fraser, and we try to. I'm supposed to have a meeting with all of them, and only one shows up, and that's one who is upright. And so I'm able to talk to him about what's going on, and it's not good. It's not good at all. And I have $300,000 invested, and it's not money that I had to lose. And so the quick of it was one of the biggest Ponzi schemes that our nation has seen. And so, so $300,000 gone, and I'm have to pay it back. I'm having to deal with it. And, this is another level of hope against hope, because I had this great hope to take these people that were C players in life, janitors, and create B- B players, help them get stability. The success factor was Toothless Ed going from drinking 2 packs of beer to 1, and reading Watchman Nee while he's doing it. He starts to love the Lord, and he starts to get rid of some of these habits that alcoholic and etc. And I just cry. I just think this is heaven to see this transformation. But when I lost the 300,000, it's all going to stop. I'm going to have to lay off 40 people. I'm going to have to do all this. And I just have a dream. And the dream, I'm shouting at the castle that the king's in. And I'm saying, I need an answer. I lost $300,000. What am I to do? And so a wise sage comes to the window, and he said, and I kept saying, would you ask the king for me? And I hear he comes back with the message from the king, the Lord. And he said, the king says, peripheral issue on the outside edges of the kingdom, the sovereign will of the sovereign God will go forth. You'll be okay. And he said, and his will be done. And his will is awesome. I just get visions of what his will was like, but I'm conflicted because I snap out of it and I think, oh, well, what about over here? I lost 300,000. What do I do today? You know what I do tomorrow? So I said, hey, I love it. I love the king. I said, would you go back and ask him again? It's $300,000. I'm going to have to lay everybody off this and that. I've so dwelled on the problem. And he comes back again. And he said, the king says the sovereign will of the sovereign king will go forward. Peripheral issue for you on the outer edges of the kingdom. Go forth and see the fruitfulness of God. You will prosper. And I go away not completely satisfied. I said, well, thank you. Thank you. And so I go into the office the next day and I tell them about it. And there are people that have what's required of us now is a hope against hope. They don't let it be devoured like Moses. He gets this vision that's unbelievable in God. And he comes down from the mountain in Exodus 36:20, and they're making a golden calf and they're having an orgy. And he doesn't lose the vision that he had on the mountain when he gets down into the valley. He just sees, okay, this is going to work out a different way. Now, he reacts pretty strong. He's a lover and a humble man, but that doesn't mean he doesn't experience indignation. But his vision goes on. Abraham is going to have a baby. It's going to be wonderful. And it doesn't happen. And the disappointment, and he tries to do it illegally with Hagar, and he's doing an illegal pleasure. He's getting into doubt, and that doubt attic it's a prison, and others want to pull you into that prison with you. They are alone. They want company, and you cannot do that. It's an illegal pleasure, doubt is. And so Abraham, after Hagar, then has a promised child that's going to come and multiply across the nations and bring forth nations out of Abraham. And then he's told to put a knife in the son. And he just doesn't know all the details, but he knows God. So he says to the man that comes with him, he says, just wait here, we'll be back down. He's confident in God. Either he's going to resurrect the boy or he's just going to have him not do it. He just knows God. And so obviously the promised child comes back to him. Now, we are getting an opportunity to see the right things and get above the fray. And so what happened with the 300,000 was we just started to declare and meet God. It was such an opportunity to meet another face of God, another way of God, the Redeemer, that he restores value and he brings it back to you in honor and love and resources. He just doesn't allow you to be stripped naked by the enemy. And it just to continue. The enemy has some short-term power, but it burns out when you maintain your maturity and your composure and you don't let yourself have these illegal pleasures of going into pity and going into mistrust and going into lack of love. It's not what we're about. We have graduated to get the sweet stick and stir it in the waters, and it will give us a power to have enemies come to peace with us and with God. And we're headed for many divine encounters. So with the 300,000, somehow 12, 16 months later, it's paid off and I have more resources. And I've looked at the book so many times, I can't tell you how it happened, where it came from. And it's a mystery, that miracle of God, but it was just to give me confidence. So, Alistair, thank you. So then I started to get a confidence in my hearing. There was a lot of other things that said, hey, when you hear a promise like the Trump administration will go on, that they're going to just plagiarize a lot of his ideas because they work. And also there's some things that are going to happen, but President Trump's going to get his health, find and discover something that needs to be fixed, and he's going to get where he doesn't get his head cut off every day, and that he's a human being. It can tilt a person when you're rejected and lied about continually. And our responsibility is to give coverage to him and his family so that he comes forth as a beloved Donald, and he's able to have a Ronald Reagan plus atmosphere around him that begins to, like Fulton Sheen, he came on the scene and was opposed so much, and he was after World War II, and he spoke to the soldiers and he said, life's worth living. Gave them new hope, and then he gave them a picture of a new world. And so this is where we're headed. We're praying for him with that. Trump administration goes on where they adopt a lot of his ideas. Again, pray for the other ones fall to the ground. God's agenda. They might hit it at times. And cry over the people on the left and the right, where we ask God, how's this better? Ask him for the heart of God, for the people in this situation. Ask to see their original design, and you're going to get the opportunity to speak it to them. I'm going to give you one last example of what we are there. I'm giving you some whys. Some things are being deferred, but I'm giving you some things that tell you it's better. And so the second example is I'm in South Africa. It's in the midst of apartheid. And there's a church, 14,000 people. I got to remember Ray McCauley is pastor. He was Mr. Universe, and I meet him at the airport. He has me come speak to the church. And then the next day, they have at 5 a.m. every day a meeting with their home group leaders. It's like 300, but there's 12 that oversee them. And so they're there, and it's like a military meeting. I mean, they're having tribal people come into the home groups, case the house. It means look it over and come back and rape the women and steal from them. And they're wanting to shut down the home groups. And my buddy ran the home groups, and he slams down. He had led special forces units, and he slammed down his phone. And he said, we will not stop loving. We will not stop bringing people in. We'll learn more wisdom in how we do it. But I just thought, wow, shoo, where is this power of these guys' love coming from? Well, they either could buckle under the pressures, or they could have a grace in God that lifts them into a peace in the midst of the storm. Bob Jones used to tell me, this is what you're going to have in the days to come. And God's going to grant it. And he said, faith continually in God and his promises. And he said, it's like going across Niagara Falls on a tightrope high above the falls with a wheelbarrow. Think about that. So, whoa. And then he said, trust is when you jump in the wheelbarrow. Well, I started shivering. Like, wow. And then he said, hope is where you're eating peanuts in the wheelbarrow and you throw the shells over the side. Then he said, rest and just love and this confidence in God and this understanding how God redeems and does magical. It is not a bad word. If it's used for black arts, that it's mystical. Let's say just ways that he works that are marvelous. So let's drop the magical out. I don't feel great about that, but it's just, we are going to marvel. So rest is when you go to sleep in the wheelbarrow. we do our best work and rest. So the second example, really quick, is hi, Valerie. Good to see you. Isaac. We're going to get an opportunity. I just want to speak to you tomorrow and let you ask questions or speak on Friday, So I feel like it's manipulation, some of the things that are going on with the prophets and telling them, you got to apologize or you got to do this or that. I think it's just a waste of time. I'm proud of people stepping out with what they heard. I don't want anybody hurt because they don't put their confidence in all the details of a word, because it's the essence of it many times. And Bob Jones used to say to me, I'm 33% right. And he said, but I hit it more than anybody else. And he wasn't saying that proud. And he might have hit it more than anybody else. And he said, that's what I think. And at that time, it seemed like the earth. But it's just the prophetic is birthed best in a council string of pearls team where they string it all together, like Chris Costanza and Holden have with me. It's awesome. And others, that just I could tell you. But second example is at this home group. Love you, Valerie, too. I so enjoy you. He says, the leader says, you want to go to a home group with me tonight? And I said, they're having those kind of conflicts in those home groups. I said, no. And he said, no, this one's the best one. Come on. And I said, where's it at? He said, Soweto. And I know Soweto is really dangerous. A township that's, huts and metal roofs and smoke coming out of the huts. I mean, they just, they breathe in that and just barefooted and just, a lot of just hanky-panky going on, just difficulties. And so we have like the president's Secret Service, we got 8 cars that are bringing us in so that we don't get in any conflicts. So we go down a hill and it's just dreary, and people are just roaming. And when we cap the hill and we start to go down, I see a hut, but it's bigger. It can hold maybe 50 people, I would guess. And it's this orange light, and it's the first time I saw Angel of Hope. And so I came with the angel Raphael, the healing angel. We've got to be able to talk about spiritual things, because angels are signed to you forever, your whole lifetime. You have, the angel of hope has never left me. And he's here to minister to me, and I judge him. It says we judge angels. At the end of it, we judge because we tell the Lord, yeah, that angel so helped me here and there. And so they just, for reward, they're blessed. And we all need to study eternal rewards, It's just a wonderful kingdom, and it's all a blessing. So I see this building just shining, glowing with effervescence, life, and you can hear the worship just coming, exploding out of it. And so we go in, and it's just packed. There's got to be 200 people in there, and just right around the building, and just, they're worshiping. You can't really tell who's leading. And this little woman, probably 4'10", comes by us, and he introduces me, but we're shouting over the music. And I don't even remember her name, but he said, she leads this. And he said, I'll tell you her story later. But it came out that night, and it was the man who was her chief cornerstone spoke, and I was watching, and I said, that man loves her and would die for her, but loved her with this pure love like a brother. And she said, well, let me tell you his story. But she got up, this little woman, and she decreed hope over that nation, future, and that nation would be a hope center. She had gotten some of the language that I had talked about hope centers, and she talked about the 5 hopes that I had spoken about and just the application of them. She spoke through the youth. She talked about them being fully grown plants and flexible and alive and full of potential, more potential God's creation. She was prophetic as it came just to people, and you could see like a bolt of lightning going through them and just them being boost because she touched original design. We're going to touch original design. We're going to say what God calls a city, and it'll become that. That's where we're headed. Creative miracles like that. So so the story comes out, and it was a hope, and the man had brought it up about her hope. He said, it's the greatest hope I've ever seen. That it hopes all things. It's love that hopes all things. And so she believed in God's ability to lead people over the devil's ability to deceive people. She believed that God was greater and that God would pursue them and God could lead people, and all of a sudden that they would desire virtues and they desire Jesus. And he knew how the Holy Spirit knows how to tow people into a real love relationship with the Lord. And so she facilitated that through a greater than love. And it was expressed in this incredible way. This is just a backstory for her. She was in the midst of apartheid, taken out from her hut with her brother. They both lived in this little hut with their mother, and they left the mother alone. And there were a couple of tribal guys with machine guns and bayonets, and they took them out to the woods, and they had her sit down on a log, and they made a fire, and they started to torture her brother. Well, they wanted her brother to tell them where their enemies were so that they could go after them. Tribes were after tribes. And so they keep cutting his tongue with their bayonets. I don't want to even tell you what they were doing to him, but it went on from like 5 in the early evening till 3 in the morning. And they're hitting him with the butt of the gun, and they're doing all kinds of gross things to him. And they're asking her to sing these delightful songs over him being really slowly tortured to death. And she is just so unmoved, and she's speaking love to her brother, speaking hope. Finally, they get disgusted and take the butt of the gun, and they hit him at 3 in the morning, and it kills him. I mean, he's just been depleted to that point and bled out. And she pointed at the man, and she said, you will be my chief cornerstone. And she said, there's a love that's greater. And she started to minister love to him after he just killed her brother. He quit. His hate couldn't stand up to her love, and it became her chief cornerstone. There is going to be amazing realities. I have seen things. Most of my life ends up on the streets of places I go and the people that I meet. And I have experienced with the Islamic woman, few others, that just their ideas, they can spout out, but I can see their hearts. And I can see where they got hurt. And I can see where comfort needs to come. The Lord spoke to me and said, there's not a person on the earth that's felt the full comfort of him. It's a mistaken understanding of mercy and comfort. And this is the time that he wants to bring it forth to us and through us, give us a sweet stick. And so there is an administration like hers that, get this, that who was in prison. Oh, I'm so sorry. In South Africa, he just is Tutu, not Tutu, but Nelson Mandela, 29 years in prison. When he comes out, he has bitterness, the full story. You got to study it. And he's got this love for the nation and the people. Well, if you have bitterness as a leader, it gets hooked and you do destructive things. And when you're leading a nation, like Bob Jones said to me, you know how to come in and out of 5, 10,000, but not a nation. So the first nation, I go and I speak to their parliament and all, 14,000 and people that are leaders. I get banned for 5 years to Norway because I crossed the guy who owned all the TV stations and the radio because I declared a few things that he did not buy, and it was just going beyond wisdom. Zeal came in there, and there were a lot of beautiful things, but you just can't on that level and in that atmosphere. You have to maintain your composure, and you have to keep your ear on his heart, or you can do destructive things. So I see us coming forth as a people and having the opportunity to use the sweet stick. And I'm encouraging you tonight to ask him how it's better. That there is just new eyes that we need to have for all people, that we want all to be saved and that we can honor them. And here's the last thing I'll say. You know, I'm a communist. When I was 16, I just thought everybody should share, you know. So it's like these. I just don't want to go on with that. I'll just finish this. So I get I get a pain that I can't shake, and I'm a Trotskyite, and I'm I'm in pain. I was lifeguarded in an inner city pool, and a little boy drowned, and I pulled him out. In the next 3 years, I'm on the first 8 pages of the Kansas City Star. You know, uncertified lifeguard lets little boy drown. They sued me for $3 million. Sue the city. I'm at 17. You know, I was out on a break, and there's 8 people in the pool. You get a rotation, so I get up on the highs, dive, you know, where the high boards are, and over on the shallow side, these 2 boys shot at. There's a boy land on the bottom, and I said, "We'll pick him up," and I see the fear in their eyes, and I see people start to scatter, and I just hit the water, and I'm just stroking. I'm over there, and you know, fast. And I pick up little Willie, his head drops back. And I don't know how to do CPR. And I'm doing my best. I'm shouting for help. And a nurse comes. And so little Willie gets hooked up to a machine. And little Willie doesn't make it. And I lost my foundation. I lost my ground wire. You know, and that's what has happened to many people. So they lost their ground wire. You know, I had a dream that we went into our electrical panel and the ground wire turned into a snake, that it was just the bitterness and stuff taking over versus being grounded in his love, being grounded in who he is, very grounded in him being greater and confident in him. And you see a little farther. That's what's happened to the prophets. They saw, but they needed to see a little farther. And they need to see a little farther in hope and see a deeper understanding. Understanding is really the key, attuning to God's heart and his heart for the nations, and just ask him how it's better. Ask him about the next 20 years. Ask him about the authority he wants to give you in the sweet stick this year and other divine tools. So boy drowns. I go off the deep end, and I deal drugs, and I have radical ideas. I'm into mind sciences, Polar Bears Club, where you go in the freezing waters and, you try and make a pencil roll up and down your desk with your mind. You put a needle in water and you try and spin it with your mind. And so it's just, you have battles with other people and mind power plays, and it's just not a good world. And so I'm out there, it's like the ones that get hooked on, I don't know about Dungeons and Dragons, but it just goes on into a realm that you just, it's dark, dark, dark. So uh, I I just avoided my family. I'm broken, and I'm ashamed of what I'm doing and who I am, and I'm angry. And I go to college class because I have to get out of the state or get out of the city because I got caught and with the drug deal, and the informant let me know that he was in my house, watched me, and he just let me know that he got popped that way. And I said, well, are you doing the same thing with me? And he just got up and laughed. And so it's obvious he was. And then I had, two police pull up right next to me in the car and look me over, and they had been following me. So they get evidence on you, and then they pick you up. They can pop you in the winter and pick you up in the spring, So I just moved and went to college to get out of the city. I needed to take a course, and so that I had a few months that I could get, out of the city before they would come. It was more than a few months, 6 months. So it's horrible, it's past. But so I got to take one college class and to be able to go up there, and I can't remember why. So I take a class at Longview College, and I come in, and it's general psych, and the teacher comes in and starts to do a rhetorical question, and the teacher, I answer it. It wasn't to be answered. He was doing a rhetorical question, and he put the chalk down and turned around and said, Bobby. And I mean, that room, you could feel just how stunned. It was my father. He had been moonlighting for my mom's medical bills to, I love my father. I'm just greatest man I ever knew. And so honorable. But he looked at me, and I was all whacked out, and did a lot of speed. And so I've lost a lot of weight. I'm gaunt, and I get long hair, and it's not well kept. And so he said, son, your mother misses you. And he said, would you come to Thanksgiving? And so it's September, and I said, Dad, I'll see. So it was, and getting popped in the winter. I got popped earlier, and then you get picked up. So so I got a little time. But he asked me that. I said, I'll see you, Dad. So I knew his material. He didn't require attendance. So I did the work and sent it in, and I did well, but I didn't come to class, And so I party on Thanksgiving Eve till 3, 4 in the morning. And they usually met at 9 a.m. at my grandmother's. And so something hit me, and I go to Quick Trips and other places. I'm buying gifts. It's the only places that were open. And I'm buying it with illegal money. And, so I get there, and I get the bag in my hand. My grandmother opens the door, and she said, My, you used to be a cute baby. And so, the atmosphere when I walked in was like a Scud missile went off, and there's sadness by some, there's anger, towards me, and they've seen me in the papers, and they don't know whether to believe whatever. So I sit down at the Thanksgiving meal, a couple hours later, and just had been lost in my thoughts. I couldn't get out of them, of how I had worthless and a waste of my life. And I mean, it's a horrible place to be at, and you can't get free of those thoughts. And, you want to, but you don't have the power. And so I sit down, I'm eating, and I'm lost in those thoughts, and I feel warm. Everybody, there's about 30 people. They're all at the other, they get in a conversation at the other end of the table. I'm on one end, and I feel warmth coming across the table towards me. I feel affection. I feel delight. And I look up, and my dad's welled up with tears. And he wasn't an emotional man, but a tender man. And he looked at me with the delight of God, and he said, "Son, you're beautiful." And I'm having a nervous breakdown within me because I can't accept this. And he said, "I'm delighted in you." He said, "You're going to be a great man, son. You can change a lot of lives." And just meant great in a heart of hope and caring. And I said, "Dad," and I'm shaking. I said, "Do you know what I'm into?" My dad was an inner city principal. He knew the streets. And I said, "And you know where the issues and problems that I could go to jail." And he said, "Son, I know you're putting your problems to the mat," because I wrestled. And he said, "You're gonna turn this around, son, and you're gonna really make a lot of difference." I said, "I've seen it, son." He had walked down the hallway of my house. We would call it 7 years. He had stepped in the room I was at, saw me in a corner, bundled up on drugs. And then he walked down the hallway with the Lord and saw where I was at 7 years later. And he came back and told me, said, you're going to be a great man. And I still try to do drug deals, but I hear the voice of my father. You're going to be a great man. You're going to touch a lot of lives. And nothing could shake that from me, that original identity. And I broke, and I gave myself to the Lord, and I went about doing good. Heartily, and I want to be the heart and affectionate, loving, and just the power of somebody speaking original design to us. And if you listen to the words, you think it's general, but it was specific and penetrated right to the core of me, and I knew the meaning behind it. The words had layers of meaning and depth through the years. So I believe that this is a time where enemies will look at them. And, I'll just tell you about the Islamic woman and be done. Is that very militant, didn't like, I talked about the Lord when I was in there. I go there and they help build up my immune system. They pump me with a cocktail of vibrancy and vitamins and stuff, and she just does not like me. And the ideas she's saying are really just really hard to listen to. But I'm asking to see her heart, and she comes in and she's really down, and they find out that the women to let me know that she had a baby, and it was a crib death. And so when she came in, I just told her how beautiful she was. And I told her about her future, and I told her about the difference that she was making for me and for others. And I was seeing with the original design, and I was extracting the good, the precious from what could be 90% not so good, but that 10% was unbelievable. And so I identified it, and I showed appreciation. That means to appreciate, it means to bring more value to. And the person feels that value, and it's indescribable how much value a human being has. And so she didn't say much. And just a week ago, I saw her. She had moved to another office and came back. And I was down, my health was giving me real troubles, and I just love my children, and I don't get to talk to them enough. And it's just, important days. And then just, what was going on in the nation, I'd gotten a little too much into the bad news. And the Lord told me, double your adoration, double your intimacy with me, sit at the table more. And, don't leave the power zone. It's not fighting with pom-poms love. It's fighting with packed dynamite and love that hopes all things. So she perceived that really I was, the Lord's shaking in us everything that should be shook. And so he shakes it out of us so that we got more room for the Lord to come in with his fullness and his delight. So that's a great opportunity, in the times now. But she brought me the comfort of God. She sat down next to me. And I said, would you pray with me? And I just loved Jesus. And she held me. She's a big, robust woman. And she said, you were the one that comforted me in the way that it meant the most. And she has broken English. And she loved the prayer of Jesus. Before that was not the sake. And she held me on bed a couple of minutes. And I started to understand what comfort meant. But this is somebody that we would call, an enemy to the faith, but not really at the core. And I'm just so thankful that we don't lose that, to see how we abound in love in this time. I've had dreams in the Reformation room about the reformers of the past, and different ones that I'm not even going to say, because I used to meet with the man that ran Spandau prison. We'd sit at a bar and have a beer and with Charles Lynn and Eugene Berg. He's been on 60 Minutes most of anybody, and so he had the 7 Nuremberg war criminals, and he oversaw the prison, and a couple of them came to the Lord. One of them, the architect of the Nazi movement, his wife, Eugene Berg, is in a wheelchair, and he designed on a napkin their house with ramps, and that's back years ago where they didn't have that sophisticated but he did it for them, and he saw them transform. People would not want them transformed. They would want them to go straight to hell. But God's love reached that to that point and met them. And so, I've just had dreams of different ones that, turned maniacal, and they were in the Reformation room, and believers were talking to them with understanding and listening to them, and they were really attuned to them. And, there was one that just died that ran the big, not Amazon, but this tough guy. I gotta remember his name. I'm so sorry, but I will remember it. But he was defiant against the Lord, and then he had cancer and he died. So you'll remember he was president of Oracle or something. But he was in there, and these believers were talking to him and listening to him, and he was touched. And there was long pauses where the words would have effect. And he said, if I would have known this about you and about the Lord, he said, I would have been more kind. Steve Jobs. And it was just like I would have gave myself to God. So I'm going to stop with that and just say, hey, the main point was that ask him how it's better, and ask him who you're to be in this next 20 years, and ask him for the vision that he has for you. Ask him how it's just not Donald Trump, but it's a whole people. The kingdom of God was highly political. When they say to stay out of politics, in this way, that we are to sow salt and light the ways of God, which end up laws and ordinances, but we win people not through power and position, but through authority they give us, which is much more powerful than the position of president. Donald Trump can be much more powerful, and watch out for Melania. There's a real authority coming to her, and I plan to be with them in the next few months and just give them some understanding, So let's just pray together, cover one another, and then I want you to ask questions, you guys, tomorrow. So just go to bed and ask him how it's better. And let's just not get lost in prophets missing it or this, that. We don't turn on each other in the body. It's, we listen to people that hear from the Lord and we love it, but we have our own relationship with him, and it's just, it's a distraction. So we take encouragement from him, and I just want to, Jacqueline's writing great questions. That is so good. So I've talked enough. Catherine Chang, glad to see you. And thank you for hanging with me, you guys. So I love you. Give me a little feedback on this if you can. And just any points that hit you. And I just wanted you to know, to be encouraged this night. And I feel so excited. I feel so good. I feel such an opportunity to sneak up on people with love and kindness and surprise them in this world and put their hands into his hands. And I'm talking about chiefs are coming forth. The prophecy about the Chiefs, and I know people want to hear about that. And just with Bob Jones, that when they won the Super Bowl, great revival. Well, he was speaking metaphorically. We got to understand it, that chiefs of industry and of the mountains are going to come forth that are compassionate, benevolent leaders, and it's going to be profound. So just watch. The Lord knows how to maneuver and make things come forth. I think give Donald Trump a break, and pray and cover him, and then see him get, this is what's happened. Is last thing that I wanted on here is I got a car. It was a nice car, and it's kind of a new start. My wife said, "You're too driven. I don't want to be with you." And so I'm broken, I'm driving a car, but I just got back to Taiwan, did a big ministry trip. I'm so tired, and they had me take this nerve pill for my nerve and my back, a pinched nerve. So, I'm feeling much better, but I have this pinched nerve, and they give me a pill. Well, this thing's like a tranquilizer. So I'm driving, I fall asleep. And I run into like 4 cars going 40 miles an hour, and my head goes through the windshield, and I'm bleeding, and I'm really torn up. But I'm more concerned. I'm hearing kids crying, and I'm kind of, after you have a concussion, you're just kind of in and out. And I hear the Lord as I'm just standing there with my hand on the car door, and I got a man screaming at me, and his daughter comes up next to me, and I just hold her. I said, "So I'm so sorry, honey." And he calms down. But I hear the Lord out loud in my spirit, and he said, "How many new cars are there a year?" I'm thinking, I just got in a wreck. I just hit all these cars. And I said, "Lord, I don't know, probably 1 million. They just come off the factory line." And he said, "Yeah." He said, "A restored car is one of a kind." And he said, "It's even better than a new car." And I said, "You're going to be a restored car." Because just my life had changed when my wife said, "Hey, don't go." And then I stepped out of ministry because I need to, and get healed, and I just was broken, and you don't want to miss her out of that place. And it's just kind of, wow. And I didn't see it coming. I actually had a few dreams, but didn't, wrote them down, but this, didn't hit me. But when he said a restored car is one of a kind, even better than a new car, my life made so much more sense that plan B is better than plan A so many times. And we're to be restored cars that are one of a kind. We're to have a restored nation, and we're to have a restored leadership, and we're to have a renewal and restoration among Trump, with the Biden family, with the Harris family with their people. They're human beings, and there's value in a human being, and so tremendous value. So we're going to speak to them with honor, and we're going to be able to make virtues fashionable again, where we're going to raise the water level of love, honor, and people are going to run to it. So I get ready. The nations that were closed are going to open up, and there are cities that are going to open up. Because when people get afraid, they want the comforter. They want him all the way, because torment is a terrible thing. And there's a demon that's torture, terror. And David said it came on him, and the hair on his arms stood straight up. He's paralyzed in his bed. Well, it's trying to hit people, and we get to bring them comfort. We're covered with the peace of God. So I love you guys. Love you guys. Eric, I hear what you're saying. I just love people in the comments they make. I do believe that it's time for a third party, the Patriot Party. That is going to be loving our nation, loving the values, loving and appreciating our history. When we go out of the room of thankfulness and into the critical thinking, then we get perverse in what we see. And, so we got to redeem the good. That's the point. And extol and bring forth our virtues and magnify what is good. So love you all. And thank you so much for just being here tonight. Okay. Love you, Nanette. We're going to continue building those adoration prayers. So everybody, I just say this in closing, I'm rambling, but we have adoration prayer every morning on our YouTube, and we're getting that sorted out. There's about 5 Bob Hartleys out there, wacky ones that are really messy, and so we're slowly getting that cleaned up. And then, your power is in magnifying him. Then you're recreated. Whatever you stare into, you become like. And so let's stare at him and not the bad news. And then he takes you to his table, and your table of the Lord is what he wants you to do tonight, is go there, and he's your friend. He's so intimate, and he doesn't hide anything from his friends. He said that to Abraham. He won't hide anything from you. He'll give you comfort. He'll give you understanding. It doesn't have to give you all the answers right away. It's just, you just somehow understand, and you're comforted, and you have confidence. And so then he comes with the why, at the right time. So just ask him how this is better. Ask him how we're to draw near and cover one another. Ask him how we're going to the next level. It's like when I had high school wrestling. If you had a little talent, you could do well. And then I got to college, and I was a hot dog, and I thought I was good. And I just got the puddings beat out of me. So for a while. And so you had to grace to the next level. And so God has given us the grace to raise to another level of love, another level of power. And so we'll describe it in what ways as we move forward here. So love you guys. Chrissy, I will pray for your mom. I love your mom. Gosh, it's, tough. Naomi, I love Naomi. So near Naomi, near to God. So just, Lord, thank you for Chrissy, and thank you for Naomi just being in her home and seeing just beautiful Bible studies, and just talk about a kind person. Talk about a person with redemptive love and power. God, we just say we love you. Let her see your eyes of kindness. Let her see your eyes of just brightness. You're chief among 10,000. Among all the world, it says. And let her see you as chief in comfort. That you first comfort us, and then you take her by the hand, you guide her, into the glorious things. In Psalm 73, you say this, that you have for her. God, do that for each one. A visitation tonight where they ask you, how's it better? How do you want to grab my hand, comfort me, and hold me? What do you want to whisper to me? Where do you want to go? What adventures do you want us to go on together? How do we get to love others together? Oh, God, give us the understanding, just as we speak, the leaders, different ones, where you just come and you just show them what the song's saying behind me. When I spoke to band years ago and I said to them, Jesus is just all right with me. He's everything. And he's just enough. He just fulfills my every desire. And just Doobie Brothers. And just, Lord, it's just been fantastic the journey with you and being able to meet people and then sing the song, Jesus is just all right with me. That Jesus is great. Jesus, you are great. Everybody will desire you when they taste of you. This is all the families of the earth desire you in Psalms 22. God, we don't know what it all means at times, but we know that people get angry at you. They don't understand you. You just want us to ask, are you big enough for this situation? You want us to ask, have we underestimated you in this time, in this hour? You want us to ask what face you want to show to people. You want us to ask, what are the new miracles of hope and bringing your presence, healing cracked hearts as well as bodies. Oh, and bringing a level of hope, vibrancy across the earth. The radiant cities in you will come forth. Just how do you want us just to walk with you, run with you, fly with you? Show us our days. Free us from ought-tos and burdens and put life in the things that you said that the Queen of Sheba in 1 Kings 10 awed and Solomon the way he set a table. Let us just just seeing you and seeing your ways in the day, and just that the simple things would become so profound in love. Like Einstein, he'd take a walk every day, sleep 10 hours a day, pick up insects and eat them on the way because they had protein in them. Unusual man, but just found beauty in all things. And God, he had his quirks, and he didn't know you. He tried to be the theory of everything, but this one that taught him about you. And then he just had problems with believers. He just thought they fought the same way, but, the militancy and all that. God, he just didn't know. And so I just believe he got touched. But God, we say we're not going to miss opportunities with ones now. We're not going to be afraid of university professors, and we're going to come with your love. And we don't have to reason or win an argument. God, we just can come in with wisdom. It just takes them to another place. Just tell them, you know what I see? I see his eyes loving you. God, we got just a power that they never forget. So thank you, and unlock us, God. We're like caged lions. You release us to roar with your goodness across this planet. We'll go anywhere, anytime. And we'll love anyway. We'll open our homes, God. We just thank you for giving us vigor and joy in this time. Thank you for a great night's sleep. In Jesus' name, amen. Love you guys. John Baptist say Locust. I love that. Simeon, love you. Tammy. Oh, Tammy, I love you. Gosh, so good to see you. You're my girl. You know that. So bless you guys. Valerie, you're my girl too. I got a family. I'm Papa. I lost sight of it for a little while, but I'm back. Okay, love you guys. Bye bye.